Hey everyone, today we are going to prep and paint some Brainiac plastics. So I have a couple of different plastics here from the 370Z holder for the tablet. We've got our faceplate here, and then we've got our rear tablet holder and support. Now for me, since this is all hidden in the back of the dashboard, I'm typically not going to spend any time doing any kind of prep or paint of it. But we'll likely focus my time just on the front faceplate here. So the plastics, when you get them from the print shop, will have a little bit of a grain on them. So you're going to want to kind of knock that down and sand that out to get it nice and smooth for putting on the paint. So I've got a series of different sandpapers here. Most likely we'll be using 220 grit just to get it down nice and smooth. And then if I want to, maybe some 800 grit before doing maybe the second coat or trying to get it down where I want to get it to. So you have a few different options of doing your paint. You can do just regular automotive paint on things, or you can go with something like a Krylon. You know, Krylon Fusion makes good paints as well that will fuse right to plastics, so you don't really have to do a lot of stuff with primer. Or you can do something like a black an automotive paint. So in this case is an actual sandable primer that's on here, where you can actually sand down and it'll give a bit of a fill on it as well. So for me, I'm probably just going to end up using the sandable primer. I'm just wanting to give this thing a bit of a coat of black to see if it'll match inside of the interior of the 370Z. So with the sandable primer, I can at least check it out. If I need to do a different color or something like that, I can, and I've got everything all nice and primed. So first step is getting this bad boy all sanded up nice and smooth. Then I'll likely do a coat of the primer, let it dry for a bit, hit it up with some 800 grit just to give it a little bit more sanding down because it's a sandable primer, and then hit it up with another coat. So we'll get started on the sanding. Okay, things are pretty smooth. So I'm probably going to give it a coat of the sandable primer. Again, this will work as a bit of a filler for any of the small, tiny little imperfections in here, and then we'll be able to sand it down again and repeat that process a few different times until we get the finish that we want. So next up is let's spray some paint.
A few moments later.
Okay, after multiple rounds of sandable primer and sanding and back and forth and over and over and over, 200 grit, 800 grit, just kept going at it. Got a fairly nice smooth surface on here. Just like any prep work for paint or body work, it's as good as the time that you put into it. So if you put lots of time, get it super smooth, you're going to get a nice glass kind of a finish on everything that's going to be a nice smooth environment. Here, it's a little bit chilly actually today, so I was even using the heat gun a little bit just to try to heat up and keep the curing process of the primer to get going a little bit better. So I would probably recommend using like a scratch filler primer, a high build primer on this. It will just definitely make it less time of going over and sanding and sanding and sanding, because that scratch filler primer will fill in these, like, they're just tiny little hairlines, and so being able to build that up and sand it back down a couple times would be a lot better than just a regular sandable primer. So that's really all there is to prepping it. I'll bring the camera in for a bit of a closer look so you can get a kind of a better idea of the nice smooth surface, and then we'll do an installation video for the 370Z as well, so you can get a better look at what it's going to look like into the car as well. So here we can take a look at the plastics themselves. Pretty smooth surface with a sheen on it here, just kind of a satin sheen that comes across the whole plastics. So I'm hoping we'll see once we do the installation and the test fitting, we'll see how that all looks as far as a satin finish to match the rest of the dashboard. So lots of nice smoothness in around all of the different climate control options here. So it turned out pretty well. So we'll see how this all looks in the final product once we've got it installed into the dashboard. But so far I'm pretty happy with how everything turned out. So that is a quick tutorial and overview of painting the plastics for Brainiac to go into your dashboard. So we'll see you again in the next video.